Hi there, welcome to this lesson on Pure Mathematics 3. We're on Chapter 3, 3.5, and in this lesson we're just looking at how you sketch the inverse trigonometric functions. First of all, there are two standard notations for inverse trig functions. Y equals sine to the minus 1 of x means inverse sine, and y equals arc sine also means inverse sine. They mean exactly the same thing. There is no difference between them. You'll notice if you're using the textbook that goes with this course that arc sine is the notation that they choose to use. Y equals sine to the minus 1 is what is found on most calculators, and minus 1 is the standard notation for inverse functions, which is the reason for that. Using y equals arc sine, though, does help avoid any possible confusion, because minus 1 has two meanings. Sine to the minus 1 of x could mean inverse sine of x, or there's a danger that you might intend it to mean the reciprocal of sine x, 1 over sine x. And that would be the main reason for using arc sine. It does avoid any confusion. Arc sine also has deeper historical roots, goes back a longer way. Having said that, sine to the minus 1 is probably the most common notation used these days. Sketching the functions. So y equals arc sine x looks something like that. The domain of y equals arc sine x is usually given as minus 1 to plus 1, which is the range of y equals sine x. So the domain of a function is the range of the inverse function. And the range of the function, it's the range that is normally limited. It's limited to minus 90 degrees to plus 90 degrees. Otherwise, you have issues as to whether it really is a function or not by the strict definition of a function. And that's what it looks like. The value in this range is called the principal value. That's the value between minus 90 and plus 90. And it is the value that your calculator will always give you if you do inverse sine. If you need other values, you'll have to find them yourself. Your calculator won't do that for you. Y equals arc cos x, or cos to the minus 1 of x. The domain of y equals arc cos x is exactly the same. It's from minus 1 to plus 1, because, again, that is the range of y equals cos x. The range of the function is different, though. If you look at the sketch here, you'll notice that it starts at 0 and goes up to 180 degrees. So the range of arc cos x is usually limited to between 0 and 180. Again, the reason for limiting it to those values is because you have issues otherwise as to whether it obeys the rules for a function. But the value in this range is called the principal value, and it is the value that your calculator will give you when you do cos to the minus 1. It'll always give you an angle between 0 and 180. And last of all, arc tan, or tan to the minus 1 of x. Now, the domain of arc tan is that x can be any real number whatsoever. And that, again, is because that's the range of y equals tan x, where the answer for tan x can be any number whatsoever. The range of arc tan, or inverse tan, same as with sine and arc sine. It's usually limited between minus 90 and plus 90 degrees. And again, that's called the principal value, and it is the value that your calculator will give you when you do inverse tan of x. And that gets us to the end of this lesson. If you have the textbook, go to page 64 and have a go at exercise 3E. Thank you very much for listening, and cheerio.